Hey everyone, Life Coach Carisa here, coming to you today with a new episode where we are going to talk all about perfectionism. I want to talk about why we may be this way, the signs of perfectionism, and how to evolve beyond that if it is your desire. I can say that I am a recovering perfectionist. I actually don't remember a time in my life that I wasn't aware of this trait that I had. I would often make a joke that I had OCD as a kid. And I don't really know if I did have an official form of obsessive compulsive disorder, but I was definitely aware of my behaviors enough to recognize when this would show up throughout my life. And, over the last 2 years, I've really worked on transforming my life so that I can truly be living in an optimal way and living my best life. And with this new white space that I've created, over the past 2 years, I decided that I was going to really focus on the areas in my life that needed the most improvement, and I was going to hit them head on. And one of those first areas that I focused on was my addiction to work. I really did have a work addiction. And so my journey of discovery into delving into why I had this work addiction really enlightened me to see that one of the root causes was this just overwhelming desire for perfection. So, I was able to recognize it, evaluate it, and ultimately change it over time. And so my level of perfectionism today really looks completely different than when, I started this self-exploration journey 2 years ago. And so, I want to share more about this so that you can decide if it's something that's present in your life and just give you the tools and the information so that you can do something about it if you want to. So, there are many contributing factors as to why someone may have a perfectionistic trait. And I'll go into that as well as sharing the concerns of letting perfectionism go unaddressed in your life or your career. I know where my perfectionistic tendencies came from, and I would hope that you could probably pinpoint those as well when you spend some time reflecting on it. So let's start with the most common signs of perfectionism. And there are many, but I've tried to capture what would be the most common or easily relatable that you could draw a line back to maybe situations in your life and see if there's a connection there. So, obsessing over the small stuff, trouble getting started or completing a project, stressing about receiving validation or approval, having extremely high standards, being stressed about your results, an overwhelming sense of just overachievement, a fear of failing, and being self-critical of yourself and others. And finally, this belief that it has to be this way. Those are some areas. And I think if you thought about that list and you could relate to maybe a few of them, that may not necessarily indicate that you have an unhealthy amount of perfectionism. But if you relate to a majority of those, most likely you already have a sense that perfectionism does have an impact on your quality of life. You could recollect numerous examples in your life pretty easily if you sit there and think about it. So where does it come from? The root of perfectionism is believing that your self-worth is attached to your accomplishments. But the truth is that we are all 100% worthy. We don't believe this, but I'm going to repeat it. We are 100% worthy from birth. We are all created to be absolutely worthy, and nothing can take that away from us. However, as we are exposed to the world we live in, our minds begin to create this story around what we need to accomplish, what we should do, what would make us really feel worthy. And that can stem from, early childhood experiences, having parents or loved ones around us that have a very high standard or expectation can definitely play a part. And once it starts, it can really be cemented in by a fear of judgment or disapproval of others. And what do we know about a belief system that continues without a balanced look at it? It continues to grow stronger and stronger to the point that you believe this so wholeheartedly, and it becomes very difficult to change the neural pathways in your brain that has been created about this belief. So what are the downsides to perfectionism? Like anything, there are many, but here are a few ones I'll share. Chronic stress. Perfectionism drives us to take on more, to accomplish more, and so we tend to overdo it, and this can lead to stress and burnout. Lost opportunity. When we are focused on perfection, we lose precious time that we could accomplish something and move on to the next area for growth in our life. We could spend that wasted time on new experiences or more fulfilling opportunities. But when we are so laser focused on the way our brain tells us we need to be, we are often missing this opportunity entirely. So there's a cost to that, a cost to those lost opportunities, that lost time. Procrastination and inefficiency. Those that are focused on perfection are often struggling with being inefficient, and they're procrastinating. And the focus is on doing it right, and so sometimes getting started can even be a struggle. The overthinking and the over-worrying that takes place before you even get started is a motivation stealer. And negative self-talk. For a perfectionist, that internal voice in your head can be non-stop. That voice is there, constantly telling you that you need to do better, and then laying on the guilt when you don't hit that bar. This leads to an overall dissatisfaction with your life and frustration on a regular basis that is unhealthy over time. You just can't even enjoy where you are. And lastly, and I think most importantly, passing it down. I find this the most compelling reason to change and to look at and change our behaviors that we just aren't happy with. I know that I inherited my tendencies, from example. And I could already see where the perfectionistic tendencies that I had myself were now being placed on my children. I had a hard time not wanting perfection for them. And let me tell you, that crap does not work. You will be inviting in a whole new set of issues if you place your perfectionistic tendencies on your kids. Trust me on this. So how do you push past perfectionism? For me, the biggest step forward has been to be more mindful and recognize when my perfectionistic tendencies are at work. When something is so second nature, it can be difficult to pause and process what is happening. And so being very mindful and being very in the moment and just hyper aware has helped me with this. Once I can recognize what I'm doing, I'm then able to reason with myself, why am I doing it this way? And then I can bring in a side of reality to question myself on my choices and validate whether or not they are warranted. So I have a personal story I wanted to share with you as to why perfectionism can plague you in your professional and personal life, and how to know when the level of perfectionism that you have maybe is unhealthy. And it's kind of a lighthearted story, but I just thought it might be interesting to show you how perfectionism can appear in sometimes the simple moments of life. But maybe it's a signal that there's a much bigger story going on that we need to pay attention to. So during the COVID shutdown, I was home a lot more, and I had really rediscovered my love of twinkle lights. So what typically was a Christmas season only delight, was now going to bring me joy all year long, because I found some very cute, cost-effective, minimalistic, and low-maintenance solar lights that I was going to be able to place around the house, on the outside of the house, and leave them up all year long through all seasons. And because I was home more than in previous years, I had begun adding more lights for me to enjoy. So this was a work night, and I had worked quite a bit that day. And I thought I would head out for a soak in the hot tub to take away the stress of the day, maybe get rid of some knots in my neck and reset with some quiet meditation. It was about 9:30 at night, and as I headed over to the hot tub, I remembered that I have this one remaining strand of twinkle lights that I really wanted to add them to the decking around the hot tub. Yes, I said to myself, I can do this quickly, and then my experience in the hot tub will be perfect. Once my brain was locked on this story, there was no going back. So I went back inside, I grabbed my new strand of lights, and I thought to myself, remember, Carisa, if you aren't careful, these can very easily get in a knot. And since they are such fragile copper wire, it takes so long to fix a knot. Yes, I had already had this happen a couple of times prior, so I knew. So I started placing the wire, and I knew that I would have just enough length to encompass the area that I had envisioned putting, the lights around the hot tub area. And as I was about halfway in, which was about 10 minutes, it began to rain. I really wanted to get in the hot tub. Why did I start this project? It could have waited. Oh well, it's not pouring. I'll just finish it quickly and then I'll still get in for the soak. A little rain won't scare me away. As you can probably guess, my focus most likely shifted to moving faster and less about being cautious of a knot because I just wanted to get in that hot tub. So sure enough, moments later, I have a knot. Just what I wanted to avoid. It's okay. I can get this out, just like all the others, I said to myself out loud. But it's raining, and all I wanted to do was get in the hot tub, I thought to myself. So I sat there in the light rain shower next to the hot tub, working on this knot, and I methodically worked with it so much that now I had it down to a little loop of a knot. But before I knew it, over 30 minutes had passed. And there was a moment of awareness where I said to myself, Carisa, you just wanted to get in the hot tub. You still have time for a quick soak. Finish putting this on tomorrow. But that would require me to stop and be okay with leaving something half finished. Nope, it's not an option here. Then I thought, well, is anyone really going to see this little knot? Maybe I can just keep going and finish it, and no one will even see it. But no, I had these perfectionistic tendencies for so much of my life that here's how the story ended up going. So I couldn't let it go. I didn't want to put the knot up, and I didn't want to pause and finish this later and enjoy my time in the hot tub. I kept messing and messing and messing until snap. I broke the wire in half. And now the last 15 feet that I needed to finish putting on the railing went dark. No more lights. Now the problem shifted from the pesky knot to only having 10 feet of lights, and I'll just have to stop short. Half done, unfinished. So then here comes the critical self-talk. Why couldn't you just do it the next day in the daylight? Why couldn't you just finish putting it up with a little knot? Why couldn't you just wait and finish this tomorrow instead of rushing? And as I walked into the house defeated, because I don't have any new light sets, and I've been banned from purchasing anymore, according to my husband, I look at the clock and it's 10:45. So for 1 hour and 15 minutes, this little project consumed and kept me from the relaxing plan that I had for myself. Now, this may seem like such a silly situation, but for me, it was one of those moments that prompted a whole self-reflection process, because this isn't the first time this has happened, and sometimes the story involves others. And that's where I feel perfectionism can really be harmful, when we involve others in that. And so the days that followed, I recognized where I got off track. I obsessed over the small stuff. I stressed about getting that project done. And I focused on this belief that it had to be done this way and it had to be done perfectly. But looking back, I would have been happy with the knot being there and the rest of the railing twinkling away in the dark night. But instead, now I see an incomplete picture in front of me, not what I mapped out in my head. But you know what? I decided to go ahead and keep it that way because just as a reminder that people and life and plans and just things, they don't have to be perfect. And there is such an empowerment that comes from being able to accept things as they are and just find the gratitude in it. Now, I have to tell you, I kept the broken section of the copper wire and I shaped it into a heart. And I kept it to remind myself that there is still beauty in imperfection. I just have to open my eyes to see it. So I keep this as a reminder of my journey with perfection. That things can be just fine the way they are. They can be just fine half done. They can be just fine not perfect. It really was such a simple lesson, but it opened up something so much bigger for me. So that is all I have to share about perfectionism for now. And I hope that anyone out there that struggles with perfectionism, you will listen back through this and make yourself a list of action items that you want to focus on. Just start somewhere and then build on your progress. You can overcome it just like I have. It has not gone completely away from me, but I am so highly aware of it and I'm in the driver's seat so that I make the conscious decisions, which is the empowering part of it. And there are times when I want to be perfectionistic and I'm fully aware that I'm doing it and I'm not affecting others and I move on. But there are so many times that I'm catching myself in my career, in my personal life, in relating to others, in relating to myself, of where I see it and I decide that I don't like how it feels, how it looks, and I decide to switch gears, right? I'm just so in tune with what's happening in the moment that I decided to pause and switch to something else that could also be true. So I want to thank you all for listening. And as always, please subscribe to my channel, like and share the videos that you enjoy so that I can expand my reach to more individuals that find this helpful. Have a great week, everyone.